All right, so 2022's Disenchanted is a Disney Plus original film and the sequel to 2007's Enchanted. This one is directed by Adam Shankman, teleplay by Bridget Hales, which, since this is a movie made for television, it's a teleplay rather than a screenplay. And the story is by David N. Weiss, Richard LaGraveness, is that how you say that? And J. David Stem, based on characters created by Bill Kelly. So yeah, this brings back a lot of the original cast. You have Amy Adams, of course, as Giselle. We also have James Marsden coming back as Prince Edward. Patrick Dempsey coming back as Robert Phillip. Let me see here. Who else do we have returning? Idina Menzel, of course, as Nancy Tremaine. I think that might be it. Uh, yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, there's a lot of new characters in here. I mean, the one thing I should address here is that we have a returning character, but not a returning actor to the character. Gabriella Baldacchino, hopefully I'm saying that right, plays Morgan Phillip, which is the little girl from the first movie, played by a different actress here who honestly looks a lot like that little girl grown up. So it surprised me to know that it wasn't her. But there are some scenes used from the original movie and some dialogue used. And the original actor there who played Morgan was Rachel Covey. There's some elements in this movie where you kind of see scenes from the other films. So they do actually show that actress just as a kid, I guess. But yeah, also new characters in the cast. Maya Rudolph plays Malvina Monroe. Very great villainous name there. Obviously, she is the villain of the film, as you can, excuse me, as you can probably gather from that. Alan Tudyk plays Scroll, which is something that comes along with the wand that Giselle receives in this movie. That kind of gives you information that you need to know. Alan Tudyk does a lot of voice work, so it's cool to see him showing up in here. Who else do we have in here? Yvette Nicole Brown comes in here as Rosaline. Oscar Nunez comes in as Edgar / also the Magic Mirror. We have Jama Mays, who a lot of people know from Glee, playing Ruby. Let me see. I think that's pretty much the main cast here. You also have Colton Stewart as Tyson Monroe and Griffin Newman coming. I believe he's coming back from the first film. Excuse me, doing the doing the voice of Pip. um, so yeah, that's another returning actor there. But that's pretty much the main cast of this movie in general. And in this movie, I saw the trailer for it. I wasn't sure if I was going to watch it because from the trailer alone, I didn't really care for where they were taking the plot. If you've seen the trailer, you know that um, there's this whole thing with Giselle kind of turning into an evil stepmother. And that's the one aspect that I really just don't care for about this movie. That's the one plot line I feel like they probably could have left out, but if they did, it wouldn't have led to other things that happened in this movie that I actually kind of liked. Um, I won't spoil anything huge, but I will say there is a little more focus put on the character of Morgan, kind of making it like, and they aren't as heavy handed on, oh, we're trying to set her up to be the big person of the future. The big person, the new face of the franchise, essentially, like they did with Hocus Pocus 2 and a lot of other Disney movies that are reboots or sequels to classic films. They're not too heavy handed on trying to really milk this. There isn't an obvious ending where it's just like, yeah, they're gonna make a sequel. That it's they make it very clear. But no, in this movie they keep it open ended enough, but they make it so it's like, hey, if we stop here, that's fine. We like there this is a satisfying conclusion to the story. Um so yeah, there's a lot of good elements to this movie that I do like in terms of like the whole family aspect to it, and there are some more emotional aspects that really did get to me. Obviously, this is a musical. I do like musicals, but when it comes to this one, there's so many times where I was like, "Oh my god, is she gonna start singing again?" I was just like, "Please don't sing, start singing," and then they do, and I'm just like, "Oh." But then I'm like, "All right, well, let me listen to the song. Maybe it'll be good." And 9 times out of 10, the song is like kind of meh, and my eyes kind of glaze over halfway through. But there was one, especially towards the end, with Idina Menzel's character that really got me. It's the type of song I'd listen to outside of watching the movie and actually look it up on Spotify and listen to it because it actually kind of it got a couple tears out of me. But I mean, obviously, Idina Menzel. If you don't know, she played Elsa in Frozen. She's also a really great Broadway actress. So um, very talented person. Anytime she's singing is a great time. But yeah, basically in this story, you have Giselle who moves to this new town with Robert and Morgan, and also her new baby Sophia, and she finds out that life isn't as much of a fairy tale as she thought it would be. And so with this wand that she receives, she makes a wish to make her life more of a fairy tale, and in doing that turns the whole town she's in into a fairy tale land. Honestly, it kind of gave me vibes of WandaVision. In fact, there's a few elements in this movie that gave me vibes of WandaVision and other Marvel stuff as well, and including Endgame and Infinity War. Like there's certain elements in this movie, Multiverse of Madness too. The whole like Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange thing. That was kind of a thing that happened in this movie, not with like Giselle fighting Giselle, but there was a certain thing they did. And if you've seen Multiverse of Madness and you've seen this movie, you might know what I'm talking about. But there were moments in there where I was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm watching a Marvel movie. And there's like story beats in here that feel like a Marvel movie. But that's besides the point. I'm getting off topic. I was telling you about the movie. But in making this wish, again, turns her whole town into a fairy tale land, and Andalasia, the place where she originally comes from, is becoming one with the real world, which you really don't see on a big scale. It's just this one town, which also, again, kind of makes me think of WandaVision. But in doing that as well, she starts turning into an evil stepmother. And yeah, there's a whole thing between her and Morgan in this movie where Morgan isn't as happy as she was in the first movie about having a princess as a mother. She's a teenager now, and yeah, I mean, she's more embarrassed by it and doesn't like when she breaks out in a song. Whereas in the first movie, like people addressed her breaking out in a song and being the way she was, and is like, oh wow, that's kind of weird. Like you have that whole scene in that movie. Sorry, I was just itching my back. Um, but you have that whole scene in the first movie where she like breaks on into song, and everybody around her breaks out into song too. And they don't really do that in this movie. And when they do that, it's in this other fairy tale land that she created. So it kind of fits within the story a little bit more why everybody else is breaking out into song with her. Um, but yeah, is this movie better than the first one? No, it's not. I don't love it, but it was a fun watch. I mean, am I really gonna watch either of these movies? Not really. These aren't movies made for me. At a certain time, I'd say yes. These are movies I really very much like. Enchanted is a movie I've seen quite a few times growing up. As I said in my review for the first one, as a kid, these are the types of movies and shows and whatnot that I wasn't really allowed to talk about that I liked, around people at school and whatnot, because at the time when I was a kid, that was like labeled gay if you watch movies like this or if you watch shows like Hannah Montana and stuff like that. Um, so I did watch a lot of shows like that and liked movies like this. I did watch the original Enchanted in the theaters with my mom, which it would have been fun to see this movie in the theater with her as well, since we saw the original in the theater as well. But hey, I think this movie definitely feels better for Disney Plus. Would I necessarily say it's worth being on streaming and just like not really paid for? Maybe not necessarily, but I'll get to that in a minute. Uh, excuse me. But like I said before, with the whole WandaVision thing, As soon as the character of Malvina Monroe gets introduced, played by Maya Rudolph, I'm like, oh my god, they're literally doing a what's her name again? Agatha Harkness thing. They're literally doing an Agatha thing. And they don't really do that too much. I mean, there's elements that I kind of take from it, but it's not an all out just like blatant ripoff. That's not the exact thing that they're going for with it. And then there's elements again, like I said, with kind of reminded me of Infinity War. It was very brief, but it reminded me of that. And then I feel like there were some other things in there that reminded me of other Marvel movies, but I can't think of anything of the, oh, like I said, the Doctor Strange thing. So I was like, oh my god. I mean, it is Disney, so it makes sense that there's probably going to be similar storylines and similar beats. And also in this movie, like, they kind of poke fun at other princess movies and whatnot. You have a scene where Morgan's singing and she like sits down like this, and then water comes up behind her like she's Ariel. Like the original Enchanted even had elements of other Disney movies, with the evil queen in there being kind of like the evil queen in Snow White, a mixture of that, and also the evil queen or whatever in Maleficent, or not Maleficent, but well, yeah, the character of Maleficent and the evil queen in Snow White, basically a mixture of those two characters. Um, and then Giselle, excuse me, Giselle, I always feel like had elements of Rapunzel without the long hair, of course. And honestly, that's the main thing she reminds me of. Other than that, she very much is her own character, and that's kind of a thing I don't like about the first movie, is that she's kind of her own character, but the villain is kind of just maybe not a ripoff, maybe inspired by, but also inspired by at times can kind of feel like a ripoff of just other characters that have come before. In this movie, they don't go super heavy handed on it by any means, but they take a lot of inspiration from a lot of other princess movies, other fairy tales, and stuff like that. So, um, basically, with like most sequels, with what they did in the first one, they doubled down on it in the second one and try to make it even bigger than the first one was. Did they succeed in doing that? Kinda, but not really for me personally. Um, I honestly think that since it's on streaming, I feel like it kind of has a the climax especially kind of has a lot lower of a scale. It feels like, but for the most part, I did have a lot of fun with this movie. Let me look at some of my notes here. I don't think I really wrote down a whole lot. I already said I believe that I don't really like the whole plot of Giselle turning into an evil queen. Um, but like I also said, it's very important for that to happen, for a lot of other things to happen in the film that I really did like. So, in terms of Maya Rudolph as the villain of the film, I think she's pretty great. Is she better than the villain of the first movie? I kind of have to say so, because the villain of the first movie kind of just seemed a little one note. And did Maya Rudolph in this movie seem a little one note? I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it was Maya Rudolph, and she was having a lot of fun with it. And it was really fun to see Giselle and Maya Rudolph just kind of like try to out evil each other. And by the way, both of these characters, especially Amy Adams, even though I don't love the whole aspect of her character turning evil, you can tell that Amy Adams is having so much fun doing it, and that makes it so much better for me to watch. Um, but yeah, it's about 2 hours long. Does it need to be that long? Not really. But that being said, do you feel that length? Do you feel that runtime when you're watching it? Not really. Do you feel that length? And that's what she said. I know this is a kids movie. I'm sorry. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, not being better than the first, but still making a valiant sequel, valiant effort for a good sequel. Um, I think they did have a lot of fun with it, and they probably had a lot lower of a budget, but at the time of the first one, with the VFX they had in there, it was very much PS2 graphics. In this movie, they kind of have some of those PS2 graphics, but in other elements, they kind of have a little bit better updated visual effects. So, I mean, that's always a plus, I guess. But overall, this one really isn't a winner for me. Um, but I still had fun watching it. Um, I mean, it doesn't make the first one bad by any means, so I think that's a good thing because sequels can do that sometimes. They can make what came before it kind of worse because you're just kind of like either retconning things from the first one or just like just completely changing things up. But I mean, we've seen it with Star Wars before. People freaked out with the whole sequel thing there. And I mean, they easily could have done something like that here. I mean, granted, does Enchanted has a have God, I can't talk. Does Enchanted have as big of a fan base as Star Wars? Hell no, no way in hell that there are as many Enchanted fans as there are Star Wars fans. I wouldn't even say there are half as many Enchanted fans as there are Star Wars fans. Um, but I mean, will this piss any fans of the original off? No, I think a lot of people are going to have fun with this. Anybody who liked the first one is going to have fun with this one. So it's worth checking out. If you have Disney Plus, you know, go watch it, add it to your list, get around to it when you can. But if you don't have Disney Plus, maybe consider subscribing. Does Disney Plus do free trials? I'm not sure. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, I have a new ranking system. I'm not sure how concrete this ranking system will be, but this is what the ranking system will be for now. I've kind of talked about it over the last couple of reviews and have mentioned that I'll continue to talk about it over the next handful of videos just to get people used to it. But usually I would do like, oh, 1 out of 10, how do I feel about this movie? But now I have a bit of a different system. So let me run you through it from the best to the worst. Starting at the top, leave your house immediately, which is a very rare thing for me to use. So if I use this tier, you'll know that I mean it. When it comes to like streaming service stuff or like TV shows, it has the same effect. Turn on your TV immediately, watch it immediately. Uh, excuse me, hiccups. So yeah, that's the first tier. Below that, I have weekend plans. Watch it opening weekend, or if it's on streaming services again, watch it the first weekend it's out. Wow, I really can't talk right now, can I? It is getting kind of late. It's towards 2 a.m., so bear with me. But yeah, tier below that is avoid the crowds. Wait a couple weeks to watch in the theater. Go on a weekday. Maybe go when it's a little bit cheaper, and maybe go when the theater is a little less packed. And sometimes, hey, you never know, you might have the theater to yourself, which is a very fun experience because you don't have to worry about the asshole around you, bringing literally the loudest bag of I don't even know what into the theater. When I was watching the menu, they brought in I don't even know how to describe what kind of bag it was, but it was the loudest bag. It was like a produce bag. You know how loud those produce bags are? They brought one of those, and maybe they brought like homemade popcorn or something, so you didn't have to pay. They had like Red Bulls and like all sorts of stuff, and the employees were passing by them and not saying anything. I was like, come on, guys. But like they had the loudest bag for their popcorn ever. Most annoying thing. So try to go on a day when you don't have to deal with those types of people. Tier below that is rent it, pay to watch it at home, or if it's on a streaming service and you happen to not have that streaming service, maybe pay to get that streaming service. Guess you can kind of see where I'm ranking this movie, but we'll keep going. Tier below that is stream it. If it appears on a streaming service that you already have, consider adding it to your list and watching it. But if you don't already have that streaming service, don't buy another streaming service just to watch it. Tier below that is last week's leftovers. And my description here is might not be horrible, but you might regret it later. The type of movie that you put on and be like, hey, this might be fun to watch, might be fun to laugh at. And then after you get like maybe 45 minutes in, you're like, oh no, they were right, and now I'm having a horrible night. But yeah, the tier below that, throw it in the trash. Those leftovers have turned. This is when you're watching a movie and you know it's bad, but you're like, maybe it'll be fun. And then it's just like, oh, this didn't just ruin my night. This ruined like my whole week. If you watch this with somebody, it's like your relationship with them might not be too good anymore. I know my descriptions are getting weird here, but bear with me. As it gets worse, the descriptions here get even weirder. Tier below that is throw in the trash and set it on fire. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty much as bad as it gets. This, if movies were board games, this one would be Monopoly because it destroys relationships. Um, and you might think, wow, throw it in the trash and set it on fire. How does it get worse than that? And it does. There's one more tier left, a tier below that, and it is the Chernobyl level disaster. And my description there is, how the hell did this get made? If this is your favorite movie or show, you need to seek medical attention immediately. Which that tier in it of itself is probably going to be equally as rare, if not more, than the leave your house immediately tier. So, if you hear me say that tier, yeah, I mean, you might want to like spam what is it, F in the chat, spam F in the chat. Yeah. Um, wow, that was me trying to be like a lot younger than I actually am. But I mean, I'm only 22, but I don't understand that shit. Never mind. Beside the point. But yeah, if you heard me before, this movie, Disenchanted 2022, even though it is on a streaming service, I'd give it a rent it for the sake of the ranking here. Pay to watch it at home. So I guess, yeah, you could stream it if you have Disney Plus, but if you don't, I'd recommend maybe checking out Disney Plus, maybe getting yourself a free trial if you can, or just paying for a month of it. It's not too incredibly expensive. Rent it or not rent it, but pay to watch this movie on Disney Plus. And hey, you also have Disney Plus in the process, so you can watch whatever else is on there, which there's a lot of pretty good stuff. But yeah, if you have kids, especially, I would say if you don't have Disney Plus by now, what the hell are you doing with your life? You absolutely need it, because it'll be, if you're a single parent, it'll be the second parent you need. If you have two parents in the relationship there, it'll be the third parent. It's honestly the best babysitter, so consider buying Disney Plus if you have kids, or if you're an adult too. There's good stuff to watch on there if you're an adult as well. But yeah, there's my ranking and also my review for 2022's Disenchanted on Disney Plus. Have you seen it? What did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you in the middle? I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say I liked it or loved it by any means. Nothing groundbreaking, but as somebody who remembers watching the original in the theater, and enjoying it as a kid, there's a level of nostalgia for this movie that I did have, and everybody just kind of fell back into place. And while certain things were kind of mixed up a little bit with the fairy tale aspect of the film, it was still a fun movie to experience for sure. But yeah, I'm curious to look back and see where I ranked Enchanted actually, because I might have put it in Stream It. No, I put it in Rent It. So I'd put this at about the same level as the first one. Neither of which are completely groundbreaking to me, but they are fun movies and have a really good cast, and all of them seem to have a lot of fun with it. And it's also a great movie for younger audiences, which I always try to go a little bit easier on, especially if they're not all completely bad. But I've seen some really bad children's movies, so this is by far not a bad children's movie. So definitely consider checking it out with your children if you haven't. If you haven't seen it, are you planning on checking it out? Why or why not? Have you seen the first one? Let me know. Really, just in general, comment down below. If you have a suggestion on a movie or show that you want me to watch, I will try to get to it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see about that. I already have a lot of like stuff mapped out for the next couple of weeks or so. It'll be kind of busy. But speaking of which, next video should be out on Wednesday. Not exactly sure what the review will be yet, but pretty much from Wednesday on, until I'm not sure when, I will be posting reviews every day because there's a lot coming out. But yeah, once again, thank you all for watching. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and I will see you in the next one.